The morning alarm on Meridian Point Trade Station had barely finished its gentle chime when Ambassador Thane realized something was wrong. The Helix diplomat had developed a routine over his 15 years stationed at the galaxy's busiest trading hub. First came the alarm, then the immediate flood of human chatter that filled every communication channel like clockwork. Today, there was only silence. Thane, quote S4. Arms moved across his control panel with practiced ease, switching between frequencies that should have been buzzing with human activity. The commercial bands where Earth traders haggled over prices. The news channels where human reporters shared stories from across their colonies. The entertainment frequencies that broadcast their strange music and dramatic shows to anyone willing to listen. Nothing. His translator device, specially calibrated for the rapid-fire human speech patterns, sat uselessly quiet on his desk. For 200 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Council, that device had never stopped working. Humans talked constantly, about everything, to everyone who would listen and many who would not. 3 doors down the corridor. Trademaster, Vel was experiencing his own confusion. The massive Keith had built his entire morning schedule around blocking human transmissions. Their constant chatter interfered with his delicate negotiations between the more refined species. Every day, he would activate his signal dampeners at a precisely 0800 Galactic Standard Time. Today, he had forgotten to turn them on, and only noticed when his aide reminded him an hour later. The dampeners had not been needed. The human frequencies were already silent. In the station's communication center, Chief Operator Nix stared at her displays with growing alarm. The young keeper had been monitoring galactic communications for only 3 years, but she had never seen the boards look like this, where dozens of indicators should have glowed with the constant stream of human transmissions. Dark spaces spread across her screens like holes in a net. She ran diagnostics on her equipment 3 times. Everything functioned perfectly. The silence was not a technical failure. It was real. Word spread through Meridian Point like ripples in still water. In the marketplace, merchants who had grown wealthy selling human entertainment devices found themselves with nothing to broadcast. The station's bars, usually filled with traders listening to human music, felt strangely empty, even when packed with customers. Captain Ross of the merchant vessel Golden Wing had docked at Meridian Point, just as the silence became impossible to ignore. The gruff Terran had been trading between human and alien worlds for 30 years. His cargo hold was full of goods bound for Earth's orbital colonies, and his communication array was designed specifically to handle the complex web of human commercial networks. Ross tried every channel he knew. The Sol system traffic control that managed the thousands of ships moving between Earth and its colonies. The Luna-based commercial frequencies that coordinated trade throughout the inner system. The Mars industrial complex networks that never stopped humming with production updates and shipping schedules. All silent. Other ship captains began reporting the same thing. The Braun Empire military vessel Ironclad had been monitoring human defense frequencies as part of routine intelligence gathering. Their signals officer, Commander Brick, confirmed that even the human military's constantly updated tactical networks had gone dark. The elegant passenger liner Star of Worlds carried representatives from 12 different species. Its communication officer, a skilled Vaxi named Whisper, had been filtering human signals for years to prevent them from overwhelming her more sensitive passengers. Now she found herself desperately searching for any trace of human transmission, finding only empty frequencies where a constant stream of communication once flowed. A's word spread beyond Meridian Point. The reaction across the galaxy varied by species. Many of the more reserved civilizations initially felt relief. The Ethereal Collective had long complained that human broadcasts interfered with their meditation frequencies. The Silent Brotherhood had petitioned the Galactic Council multiple times to limit human communication rights. But relief quickly turned to unease as the implications became clear. Dr. Nash, the station's senior xenobiologist, called an emergency meeting of the science staff. The elderly human had spent decades studying how different species communicated across space. He knew better than anyone what the silence meant. "This is not temporary," he told the assembled scientists. "Humans do not go quiet. They communicate when they are happy, when they are sad, when they are afraid, when they are bored. They talked to each other, to their computers, to their pets, to empty space itself. Communication is not just what humans do, it is what humans are. The implications spread like a cold wave through the galactic community. If humans were not communicating, then something fundamental had changed. Either they could not communicate, or they were no longer there to communicate. Emergency protocols, activated across known space. The Galactic Council's monitoring stations began comprehensive sweeps of all human territories. Deep space relay stations that had carried human signals across vast distances fell silent one by one as their automatic systems found nothing to relay. On the outer rim of human space, automated defense platforms continued their programmed patrols, but their regular status reports to Earth Command went unanswered. Supply ships found themselves approaching human colonies with no one to guide them to docking ports that had never needed guidance before. The most disturbing discovery came from the Keeper's ancient observation posts scattered throughout the galaxy. These installations had monitored space for millions of years, automatically recording the signatures of all civilizations. For 2 centuries, their logs had shown the steady, constant pulse of human activity across dozens of star systems. Now, for the first time since humanity had discovered faster-than-light communication, the Keeper sensors showed human space as a void, not destroyed, not damaged, but simply empty of the electromagnetic signatures that indicated active civilization. As the galactic day cycle ended and night fell across Meridian Point, Ambassador Thane stood in his quarters looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the direction of Sol, humanity's homeworld continued its ancient orbit around a yellow star. The planet was still there. The colonies were still there. The massive orbital stations and asteroid mining facilities that had made humanity wealthy were still there. But the humans themselves, with their endless chatter and boundless curiosity, their annoying questions and infectious enthusiasm, had fallen silent. And in that silence, the galaxy began to understand that it had lost something it had never realized it treasured. The age of human noise was over. What came next? Nobody knew. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within 18 hours of the first reports. Representatives from across known space gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Central Prime, their varied forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes beneath the ancient dome. High Chancellor Zorn called the session to order with unusual haste. The elderly Keeper's voice carried the weight of authority earned over 3 centuries of diplomatic service. Around the circular chamber, the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy waited for answers that no one possessed. "We face an unprecedented situation," Zorn announced, his crystalline form shimmering with contained energy. "An entire member species has ceased all communication simultaneously. This has never occurred in our recorded history." The reaction was immediate and varied. Representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of languages, while universal translators worked overtime to keep pace with the rapid exchanges. Some species seemed more concerned than others, but all recognized the unprecedented nature of the crisis. Commander Prime of the Brawn Empire was first to speak. The massive warrior's metallic exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's lights as he rose from his seat. "My fleets report complete communication blackouts across 17 human sectors. No military traffic, no civilian chatter, no emergency broadcasts. This indicates either total destruction or total evacuation." Dr. Flo, the Keth representative, activated his holographic displays with elegant tentacle movements. "Our analysis suggests neither scenario. Long-range sensors detect no debris fields indicating destruction. Energy signatures from human installations remain steady, suggesting active maintenance systems, yet no biological signatures register on any scanning frequency." The implications sent a chill through the assembly. Technology functioning without users. Cities powered but empty. Ships flying predetermined courses with no one at their controls. Ambassador Mist of the Ethereal Collective floated above her designated space, her translucent form barely visible. "Our deep meditation centers have detected unusual resonance patterns in the cosmic background radiation. Something vast moved through space approximately 72 hours ago, coinciding with the human communication blackout." This revelation caused an immediate stir. The ethereal collective rarely shared information from their mysterious meditation practices, and their insights into cosmic phenomena were legendary throughout the galaxy. Within hours, 3 separate investigation fleets launched toward human space. The Keth dispatched their most advanced science vessels under Commander Vale, a brilliant analyst known for solving impossible mysteries. The Braun Empire sent a military task force prepared for anything from alien invasion to civil war. The Keepers contributed their ancient exploration ships, equipped with sensors that could detect traces of civilizations millions of years old. Commander Vale's fleet entered the Sol system first, their sleek vessels gliding past familiar landmarks that now felt alien in their silence. Jupiter's massive mining platforms continued their automated harvest of atmospheric gases, but no human supervisors coordinated the complex operations. Mars colony's light sparkled across the red planet's surface, but no voices coordinated the activities that those lights represented. Earth itself hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and terrifying in its quietude. The orbital stations that ringed the planet maintained perfect formation, their solar collectors tracking the sun with mechanical precision. Traffic control systems guided automated cargo haulers along established routes, but the constant human supervision that had managed interplanetary commerce for centuries was gone. Vale ordered detailed scans of Earth's surface. Cities showed normal power consumption patterns. Transportation systems operated on automatic schedules. Agricultural areas displayed healthy crop growth managed by robotic systems. But thermal scans revealed no human heat signatures anywhere. On the planet, the investigation teams landed at major human centers, expecting to find evidence of struggle, disease, or evacuation. Instead, they discovered scenes that would haunt their reports for years to come. Meals sat half-finished on tables. Personal belongings lay scattered as if their owners had simply vanished mid-task. Vehicles sat empty in traffic, their automated systems preventing accidents but unable to explain the absence of their passengers. In New Tokyo, Vale's team found the city's central communication hub still operational. Banks of servers continued processing data, but the humans who should have been monitoring and directing the information flow were gone. Coffee cups sat beside workstations, still warm from automatic heating systems programmed to maintain temperature. For workers who would never return. Similar scenes repeated across human space. The Braun military teams found human military bases with all weapons secured and no signs of battle. Guard posts stood empty but intact. Strategic command centers hummed with activity from their artificial intelligence systems, but the human commanders who made the crucial decisions had vanished without leaving any record of their departure. The Keeper exploration ships made the most significant discovery in the asteroid mining belt beyond Mars. Deep space sensor arrays, designed to monitor the outer reaches of the solar system, contained data logs that the automated systems had continued to record even after their human operators disappeared. Dr. Nex, the expedition's chief archaeologist, spent days analyzing the sensor data. What she found changed everything the investigation teams thought they knew about the human disappearance. The logs showed massive objects moving through deep space, approaching the solar system from the direction of intergalactic void. These objects were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Larger than planets, they moved with purpose rather than following gravitational trajectories. Most disturbing, the sensor logs indicated these objects had been actively scanning human space for weeks before the silence began. The final piece of the puzzle came from Earth's global communication network. Dr. Nex discovered that in the hours before the silence, every human communication device on the planet had received the same transmission, a complex mathematical sequence that appeared simultaneously on every screen, every audio device, every data terminal in human space. The sequence was not random. Analysis revealed sophisticated mathematical relationships that suggested advanced intelligence, but the source was completely unknown to galactic science. Most importantly, the transmission had not originated from any human source or any known location within the galaxy. As the investigation fleets prepared their reports, one fact became undeniable. Humanity had not been destroyed, conquered, or evacuated by force. They had been contacted by something from beyond known space, and they had responded to that contact by leaving together, all at once, without saying goodbye to the galaxy they had called home for 2 centuries. The mystery deepened with each piece of evidence. What could have convinced an entire species to abandon everything they had built? What message could have been so compelling that billions of humans would leave behind their homes, their achievements, their place in galactic civilization? As the investigation fleets returned to Central Prime with their disturbing findings, the galaxy began to realize that the silence was not just an absence of human voices. It was the sound of a fundamental change in the nature of existence itself, and whatever had taken humanity away was still out there in the vast darkness between galaxies. General Park stood in the observation deck of Deep Space Command, watching the stars that had been her companions for 30 years of military service. The massive space station orbited Earth at the edge of the solar system's defensive perimeter, its sensors constantly monitoring the vast emptiness beyond known space. 3 days ago, those sensors had detected something impossible. The first alerts came from the outer monitoring stations, automated posts positioned light years beyond the farthest human colonies. These distant watchers were humanity's eyes in the void, designed to warn of any approaching threats from intergalactic space. For decades, they had reported nothing but empty darkness and the faint signals of distant galaxy clusters. Then, in the span of 6 hours, they all began transmitting the same message. Massive objects were approaching from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy, moving at speeds that should have been impossible for structures of their size. Park had been awakened from sleep by her aide, Lieutenant Blue, whose usual calm had cracked under the weight of what the sensors were showing. The objects were enormous beyond comprehension, each one larger than Earth's moon, moving in perfect formation through space that no known civilization had ever crossed. How many? Park had asked, studying the sensor readings with growing disbelief. 17,000 confirmed contacts, General. Possibly more beyond our detection range. The numbers were staggering. Even the greatest space fleets in galactic history had never assembled more than a few hundred capital ships. These objects dwarfed anything in the databases of known civilizations. As the mysterious fleet approached the outer edges of human space, more details became clear. The objects were not ships in any conventional sense. They were structures that seemed to have been grown rather than built, with surfaces that bent light in impossible ways. They moved without any visible means of propulsion, ignoring the gravitational fields of stars and planets as if physics held no meaning for their creators. Park ordered full military alert. But even as she gave the command, she knew that humanity's defenses were meaningless against whatever was approaching. The human fleet was powerful by galactic standards, but these visitors commanded forces that operated beyond current understanding of science. The contact came on the 3rd day. Every communication device in human space activated simultaneously. Personal tablets, military networks, entertainment systems, emergency broadcasts, even simple radio receivers picked up the same signal. It was not transmitted in any human language, but somehow every person who heard it understood its meaning perfectly. The message was both invitation and explanation, delivered by intelligences so ancient that they remembered the birth of galaxies. They called themselves the Watchers, guardians of life across the cosmic web of existence. For millions of years, they had observed civilizations rise and fall, seeking species that possessed the rare qualities needed for their great work. Humanity, they revealed, had caught their attention not through military might or technological advancement, but through something far more precious. Humans had demonstrated the ability to adapt to any environment while maintaining their essential nature. They built communities in space, on hostile worlds, in the depths of gas giant atmospheres. Yet they remained recognizably human wherever they went. More importantly, humans had shown they could work together across vast distances, maintaining connections and shared purpose even when separated by light years. Their constant communication, so annoying to other species, proved they understood something fundamental about civilization that even ancient races had forgotten. The Watchers explained their purpose with images that bypassed language entirely. They were gardeners of life on a cosmic scale, moving between galaxies to preserve and nurture civilizations before cosmic catastrophes could destroy them. A wave of dark energy was moving through the universe, sterilizing entire galaxy clusters as it passed. The Milky Way had perhaps 500 years before this force arrived. The choice they offered humanity was stark. Join them in their mission to preserve life across multiple galaxies, becoming part of an eternal civilization dedicated to protecting others, or remain in the Milky Way and face inevitable extinction when the dark wave arrived. But the choice came with a price that only humans could understand. To join the Watchers meant leaving everything behind, not just Earth, but the entire galactic community that humanity had helped build. They would become something new, evolved beyond their current form to serve a purpose greater than any single species or world. The decision had to be made quickly. The Watchers could not remain long in normal space without causing gravitational disturbances that would affect the entire solar system. Humanity had 72 hours to choose its fate. What followed was the most remarkable democratic process in human history. Using the global communication networks that connected every human settlement across space, a species-wide discussion began. Billions of voices joined the debate, sharing hopes and fears across the void. Some argued for staying, fighting the cosmic threat with human ingenuity and determination. Others pointed out that joining the Watchers offered the only chance for human survival and the possibility of saving other species from extinction. The final vote was not even close. Faced with a choice between certain destruction and uncertain transformation, humanity chose the unknown path with the same courage that had carried them to the stars. The evacuation began immediately. Watcher vessels, impossible structures of living metal and crystallized energy, appeared throughout human space. They did not land on planets or dock with stations. Instead, they sent smaller craft that could phase through solid matter, arriving directly at human locations regardless of walls or distance. Park watched from Deep Space Command as the evacuation proceeded with impossible efficiency. Every human in the galaxy received a personal transport, sleek pods that seemed to know exactly where to find them. Families were reunited across interstellar distances as the pods gathered passengers from colonies, ships, and stations throughout human space. The process was silent and swift. Humans entered the transport pods willingly, saying goodbye to their lives with quiet dignity rather than panic. Many left messages for the other species they had worked with, expressing gratitude for the years of cooperation and friendship. As the final hours approached, Park made her last rounds through the command center. Her staff had already departed, their transport pods arriving precisely when needed. The station systems would continue operating under artificial intelligence guidance, maintaining Earth's defenses until the automated systems eventually failed. Her own transport arrived just as she finished shutting down the last human-controlled systems. The pod was warm and welcoming, its interior somehow perfectly suited to human needs despite being created by beings she had never met. As she stepped inside, Park felt a sense of peace that surprised her. Through the pod's transparent walls, she watched as the Watcher fleet prepared for departure. The massive vessels moved into formation around a structure so large it dwarfed everything else in the system. This was their transport across intergalactic space, a ship designed to carry entire civilizations between galaxies. As the fleet began to move, Park saw Earth falling behind. Its blue surface still beautiful but now empty of the species that had called it home. The other planets of the solar system passed by like memories, each one marked by human achievement now abandoned to time. The journey into intergalactic void began with a sensation Park could not describe. Reality seemed to fold around the Watcher fleet as they moved beyond the boundaries of normal space, heading toward purposes and destinations that human language could not express. Behind them, human space fell silent for the first time in centuries, leaving only empty frequencies and the echo of a species that had chosen transformation over extinction. Dr. Nex assembled the final pieces of the puzzle in her laboratory aboard the Keeper research vessel Ancient Light, surrounded by artifacts and data that painted a picture too vast for most minds to comprehend. The elderly archaeologist had spent her life studying the remnants of vanished civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for the scope of what humanity had uncovered. The mathematical sequence that had appeared on every human device, was the key. After weeks of analysis, Nex and her team had decoded enough of the message to understand its true meaning. It was not just a communication from the Watchers, but a compressed data package containing the history of their mission across cosmic time. The Watchers were older than the galaxy itself. They had emerged from one of the first galaxy clusters to form after the universe began, reaching technological transcendence while most of space was still dark and empty. But rather than pursuing power or conquest, they had dedicated themselves to a purpose that spanned billions of years, preserving life against cosmic forces too vast for any single civilization to resist. The dark energy wave approaching the Milky Way was not unique. It was part of a cosmic cycle that had repeated countless times throughout universal history. Every few billion years, these waves swept through regions of space, breaking down the complex matter that allowed life to exist. Entire galaxy clusters had been sterilized by previous waves, leaving behind only simple particles and radiation. But the Watchers had learned to recognize which species possessed the rare qualities needed to survive the transition between cosmic ages. They searched for civilizations that could adapt without losing their essential nature, species capable of maintaining unity across vast distances and diverse environments. Most importantly, they sought those who valued life itself above individual survival. The data revealed that humanity was not the first species the Watchers had recruited. Across millions of years, they had gathered representatives from dozens of galaxies, preserving the best qualities of each civilization before cosmic catastrophes could destroy them. These rescued species had been transformed and evolved, becoming part of the Watchers' mission to seed new life in safer regions of the universe. Commander Vale studied the implications from his position aboard the Keth flagship Harmony. The brilliant analyst had initially believed they were investigating a simple disappearance, but the truth was far more complex and disturbing. If the Watchers were correct about the approaching threat, then every civilization in the Milky Way faced extinction within centuries. The question, Vale reported to the Galactic Council, is not what happened to humanity, but whether we can survive what is coming without them. The cosmic threat was already detectable to sensitive instruments. Deep space observatories began reporting unusual readings from the direction of the galactic rim. The dark energy wave was still centuries away, but its advance effects were beginning to interfere with the fundamental forces that held matter together. Panic would have been the natural response, but something unexpected happened instead. The galaxy began to unite in ways that had never occurred during humanity's presence. Species that had maintained cold diplomatic relations for millennia suddenly found themselves working together on research projects. Ancient territorial disputes were set aside as the scope of the threat became clear. The Brawn Empire, known for their military solutions to every problem, surprised everyone by dedicating their entire industrial capacity to scientific research. Commander Prime addressed the Galactic Council with words that would have been impossible before the silence. Our weapons are useless against cosmic forces. We must learn to think like the humans did, finding solutions through cooperation and innovation rather than conquest. The ethereal collective emerged from their traditional isolation, sharing meditation techniques that allowed other species to perceive cosmic phenomena beyond normal senses. Their deep understanding of quantum mechanics, previously kept secret, became available to any researcher working on solutions to the approaching crisis. Even the normally analytical Keth began displaying emotional responses that their species had suppressed for centuries. Dr. Flo stood before a joint research session and openly expressed grief for the loss of humanity's unique perspective. We always thought their constant communication was inefficient, he admitted. Now we understand it was their greatest strength. They maintained emotional connections across impossible distances. Without that ability, our scattered research efforts lacked the coordination needed for breakthrough discoveries. The Silent Brotherhood, who had always preferred quiet contemplation, surprised the galaxy by becoming the most vocal advocates for maintaining humanity's abandoned communication networks. They argued that keeping the human frequencies active was essential for preserving the possibility of future contact. As months passed, the various species began attempting to recreate human innovations using their own methods. The results were disappointing. Human technology had been designed around human intuition and adaptability. Their ships required constant minor adjustments that only human pilots seemed to manage instinctively. Their cities needed the kind of flexible management that human administrators provided through countless small decisions. Most importantly, human diplomatic methods proved impossible to duplicate. Other species could follow the procedures and protocols that humans had established, but they lacked the essential human ability to find emotional common ground with completely alien perspectives. Without humanity's natural talent for making diverse species feel heard and valued, galactic cooperation began showing strain despite the common threat. Ambassador Thane made a disturbing discovery while reviewing historical records from Meridian Point. In the weeks before their disappearance, humans had quietly transferred ownership of their major technologies and facilities to various alien species. At the time, these transfers had seemed like routine administrative updates. Now they appeared to be carefully planned gifts, ensuring that human achievements would survive even if humanity itself was gone. Dr. Nash, the elderly human xenobiologist who had remained on Meridian Point during the evacuation, became an invaluable resource for understanding human methods. But even he could not explain how his species had developed their unique approach to problem-solving and relationship building. Humans do not think in straight lines, he explained to a gathering of alien scientists. We consider multiple possibilities, simultaneously change our minds when new information appears and somehow maintain optimism, even in hopeless situations. I can describe these traits, but I cannot teach you how to develop them yourselves. The research into cosmic defense progressed slowly. Mathematical models showed that conventional technology could not stop or deflect a dark energy wave spanning multiple galaxy clusters. The forces involved operated on scales that made stellar engineering look like building toys. But the human data logs contained hints of something more hopeful. References to quantum anchor points and dimensional stability fields suggested that humanity had been researching solutions to cosmic-scale problems long before the Watchers arrived. Their disappearance had interrupted research that might have offered alternatives to evacuation. Late in the galactic year, Dr. Nex made her most significant discovery. Hidden in the quantum entanglement networks that humans had used for instantaneous communication across space, she found message packets that had been programmed to activate months after humanity's departure. The first message was brief but profound. The work continues. Do not despair. Solutions exist that do not require abandoning hope. Additional messages appeared over the following weeks, each containing fragments of encouragement and hints about ongoing research. The messages were clearly from humans working alongside the Watchers, suggesting that humanity had not simply been absorbed into an alien collective, but remained recognizably themselves while pursuing cosmic solutions. The final message changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity's departure. We chose to join the Watchers not to escape the threat, but to gain the knowledge needed to stop it. The Milky Way is not doomed. Keep our frequencies open. We will return with answers. Suddenly, the silence was not an ending, but a beginning. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy they loved. They had embarked on the ultimate research mission, seeking solutions among beings who had survived cosmic catastrophes for millions of years. The galaxy realized it faced a choice similar to the one humanity had made. They could surrender to despair and wait for inevitable destruction, or they could work together with the same determination and hope that had always characterized human civilization. For the first time since the silence began, species across the galaxy began broadcasting on the old human frequencies, not seeking answers but offering their own commitment to the search for solutions. If humanity was working to save them all, then they would do everything possible to be worthy of that sacrifice. 2 years had passed since the silence began, and the galaxy had learned to listen in ways it never had before. The bustling marketplace of Meridian Point now hosted a different kind of commerce, the trading of ideas, hope, and determination. Between species that had once barely tolerated each other's existence, Ambassador Thane stood in the renovated memorial section of the station, where humanity's final broadcasts played on continuous loop. Beings from across the galaxy came here to study human communication patterns trying to understand the secret behind their ability to find common ground with anyone. The Helix diplomat had become an expert on human diplomatic methods, though. He still struggled to replicate their natural empathy. The memorial was more than a museum. It had become a working laboratory where the galaxy's best minds collaborated on projects that would have been impossible during humanity's presence. Without the constant human chatter to rely on, other species had been forced to develop new forms of cooperation and understanding. Captain Ross had transformed his merchant vessel into something unprecedented, a mobile memorial that maintained the human trade routes exactly as they had been left. The Golden Wing visited every abandoned human colony on a precise schedule, keeping their systems operational and their beacons active. Other captains from different species had joined his mission, creating an informal fleet dedicated to preserving human achievements until their creators returned. The colonies themselves had become shrines to human adaptability. On the ice world of frozen light, automated systems continued extracting resources and maintaining the domed cities that humans had carved from solid ice. The desert planet of Sun's Edge still bloomed with engineered vegetation that converted sand into fertile soil. Each location demonstrated humanity's unique gift for making hostile environments into homes. Dr. Nash had established the Human Studies Institute aboard Meridian Point, welcoming researchers from every major species. The elderly xenobiologist had become something of a prophet, interpreting human methods and philosophies for species struggling to understand how their former colleagues had approached impossible problems with such consistent optimism. Humans believed that every problem had a solution, he explained to a mixed group of scientists from the Keth Science Division and Braun Empire Research Corps. They might not know what that solution was, but they never doubted that it existed. This faith allowed them to continue working, even when logic suggested their efforts were futile. The lesson had profound effects on galactic research into the approaching cosmic threat. Instead of calculating probabilities of survival, which uniformly showed hopeless odds, the various species began approaching the problem with what they called human-style thinking. They assumed solutions existed and worked backward to find them. The results were remarkable. The ethereal collective's meditation techniques combined with Keth mathematical precision and Braun engineering capabilities produced theoretical frameworks that had never been attempted during humanity's presence. Without humans to bridge communications between species, each group had been forced to truly understand their partner's perspectives rather than simply translating through human intermediaries. Commander Vale had established a permanent research station in the Sol system, where teams of alien scientists worked to understand the technology humans had left behind. The installations were still functioning perfectly, but their operation required intuitive adjustments that seemed to defy systematic analysis. Human technology was not just tools, Vale reported to the Galactic Council. It was an extension of human thinking. Their machines required the same kind of flexible, adaptive response that humans applied to everything. We are learning to think like humans thought, not just use their equipment. The greatest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Silent Brotherhood, traditionally the most isolated of the galactic species, had spent 2 years analyzing the quantum entanglement networks that humans had left behind. Their deep understanding of meditation and consciousness allowed them to perceive patterns that more analytical species had missed. Brother Quiet, their representative to the research consortium, made an announcement that changed everything. The human communication networks were not just tools for sharing information. They were a form of distributed consciousness that allowed the entire species to think and solve problems collectively. The quantum entanglement maintained emotional and intellectual connections across impossible distances. This revelation explained why human society had remained stable across hundreds of light years, while other species required strict hierarchies and rigid protocols to maintain coherence across space. Humans had literally shared their thoughts and feelings through their communication networks, creating a species-wide unity that other civilizations could barely comprehend. More importantly, the networks were still active. The quantum entanglement, points that humans had established throughout the galaxy, continued to function, creating a web of connections that could theoretically support the same kind of distributed consciousness that had made humanity so unique. Working together in ways that would have been impossible before the silence. The galactic species began to develop their own version of the human communication web. It was clumsy at first. Alien minds were not naturally suited to the kind of open sharing that came instinctively to humans. But gradually, something new began to emerge. The Keth provided mathematical frameworks for organizing shared thoughts. The ethereal collective contributed techniques for maintaining consciousness coherence across vast distances. The Braun Empire offered the industrial capacity to build quantum entanglement networks throughout galactic space. Even the Keepers shared ancient knowledge about consciousness manipulation that had been secret for millions of years. As the new communication web came online, the participating species experienced something unprecedented. For the first time, they could feel what other species actually experienced, rather than simply understanding their translated words. A Keth scientist could experience the emotional resonance that drove ethereal meditation. A Braun warrior could feel the ancient patience of Keeper consciousness. The breakthrough in cosmic defense research came not from any single species, but from the collective intelligence that emerged when different forms of consciousness were networked together. The solution was elegant in its simplicity, impossible in its implementation, and absolutely characteristic of the kind of lateral thinking that humans had always demonstrated. Instead of trying to stop or deflect the dark energy wave, the networked galactic consciousness realized they could alter the fundamental quantum properties of their local space. By creating a resonance cascade through the fabric of reality itself, they could shift their region of space into a quantum state that would be unaffected by the cosmic sterilization wave. The project would require the entire galaxy to work in perfect coordination, sharing consciousness and purpose across billions of individuals and dozens of species. It was exactly the kind of impossible task that humans would have embraced without hesitation. As work began on the Galactic Quantum Resonance Project, the human communication frequencies that had been kept open as memorials began to receive new transmissions. Brief, encoded messages that carried the unmistakable signature of human consciousness, but transformed by knowledge gained from working alongside beings millions of years old. Dr. Nex was the first to decode the messages fully. The ancient Keeper archaeologist had spent months learning to think in patterns similar to human intuition, and her success in decoding the transmissions proved that the galaxy's efforts to understand humanity had not been in vain. "We have found the path," the first complete message read. "The Watchers know of your project and approve. Galactic quantum resonance will work but requires precise timing with cosmic cycles. We are returning with calculations and technologies needed for success. Keep the frequencies open. We bring gifts for the galaxy that sheltered us." The news spread through the galactic communication network with a speed that matched human enthusiasm. Species that had never shown emotion before began broadcasting celebratory messages. The Silent Brotherhood broke their ancient vows of quiet to shout joy across space. Even the normally reserved Keth began sharing excitement through their analytical reports. But the return would not be simple. The messages made clear that humanity had been fundamentally changed by their time with the Watchers. They had gained knowledge and abilities that would allow them to help save the galaxy. But they were no longer exactly the same species that had vanished 2 years earlier. "We have learned to exist partially outside normal spacetime," one message explained. "This allows us to work on problems that require cosmic-scale solutions. But we will need time to readapt to linear existence when we return. The galaxy we left may find us strange at first." Captain Ross received a personal message that brought tears to his weathered eyes. "Thank you for keeping our roots alive. The ships remember their paths, and we remember the kindness of friends who refuse to let us be forgotten." Ambassador. Thane found his own message waiting in the diplomatic frequencies. "Your efforts to understand our methods have not been wasted. The galaxy has learned to cooperate in ways that surpass what we achieved alone. We return not as teachers but as partners in the work ahead." The Quantum Resonance Project accelerated as new data arrived through the human communication channels. Complex calculations that would have taken galactic computers years to solve appeared as elegant solutions that could be implemented with available technology. The Watchers' knowledge, filtered through human understanding and adapted for galactic capabilities, provided the missing pieces for success. The day of return came with less fanfare than expected. There were no massive ships descending from space, no spectacular displays of advanced technology. Instead, the human frequencies simply became active again, filled with voices that were familiar, yet transformed by their cosmic journey. The first humans to reappear did so quietly, stepping out of quantum fold points that opened in empty space throughout the galaxy. They looked exactly as they had when they left, but their eyes held depths that reflected knowledge of cosmic forces beyond normal comprehension. General Park materialized aboard her old command station, Deep Space Command, which had been maintained exactly as she had left it by a consortium of alien engineers. She smiled at the careful preservation of her personal belongings, then began the work of coordinating humanity's return to normal space-time. "We learned much among the Watchers," she announced to the galaxy through the communication networks that had never stopped hoping for this moment. "But the most important thing we learned was that we were right to have faith in our friends. You accomplished in 2 years what took us millennia to understand. The galaxy has become something new and wonderful." The returned humans brought gifts beyond technology and knowledge. They carried within their transformed consciousness the ability to bridge not just different species but different levels of existence. They could translate concepts from cosmic-scale thinking down to individual understanding and elevate individual insights to cosmic significance. The Galactic Quantum Resonance Project succeeded beyond all expectations. When the dark energy wave finally reached the Milky Way 5 centuries later, it passed through local space like light through crystal, its sterilizing effects neutralized by the quantum coherence that all galactic species maintained together. By then, the galaxy had become something unprecedented in cosmic history. Dozens of species sharing consciousness and purpose across space, united by communication networks that carried not just information, but genuine understanding between radically different forms of awareness. Humanity had found its ultimate purpose, not in conquest or achievement, but in teaching the galaxy how to listen to itself. The silence that had once terrified every species had become the foundation for a new form of civilization that could face any challenge the universe offered. The age of human noise had ended, but the age of galactic harmony had begun. And in that harmony, carried across impossible distances by quantum networks that pulsed with shared consciousness, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy lived on: the unshakable belief that every problem had a solution and every voice deserved to be heard.